Yo, what's happening, everybody? The Boston Source checking in here, and that's right, the WBC light heavyweight champion, the Mexican monster, David Benavidez, and he's preparing for his bout November 22nd, Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, against Anthony Yarde, and I just wanted to catch up with him to talk about a few things here. So first off, how's camp been here so far while you're preparing for your fight against Anthony Yarde?
It's been really good, man. I've been really excited. I've been working extremely hard. I'm excited because I'm gonna be fighting on Riyadh season, so there's gonna be a lot of opportunities after this fight. But first things first, we got to get through Anthony Yarde. I know he's a tough fighter. He's a veteran. He's been in there with some great fighters, but I think this is a great entrance to my Riyadh season debut. Tough fighter, but I'm gonna be too much for Anthony Yarde. And like I said, I'm not gonna back down from him. I hope he doesn't back down from me. He doesn't try to run around the ring because I'm gonna be in there and I'm gonna be trying to hurt him every single round.
Yeah, and as many fight fans know, you don't back down from anybody. We've seen there your recent resume. You had the fight there with Alexander Kovacic. You had the fights there with Demetrius Andrade, Caleb Plant, and recently with David Morrell Jr. And so you've pretty much had one of the best resumes in the sport of boxing, and that kind of like has you amongst those in the top pound for pound rankings. Now, with you defending this WBC light heavyweight champion, like how's it to represent the WBC there? Not only defending or being a champion there with the super middleweight division, but now as the WBC light heavyweight champion.
I'll be honest with you, bro. It feels good, but it's not as satisfying as going in there beating somebody for it. I was expecting to be in line for the title shot again, and I don't know. Something happened with the. I don't know what happened between Beterbiev and Bivol that they're gonna have a trilogy, and now they're not gonna fight for the third time. But it is what it is. We keep it moving. Like I said, I'm not gonna dwell on that too much. Like I said, we're in a great position with Riyadh season. There's a lot of great fights to be made happen. So the opportunity is gonna come sooner or later.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I mean, you're there in the light heavyweight division, and your last bout was February 1st against David Morrell Jr. there at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas. And, I think that was one of your more impressive showings here in your professional career. You're able to, show your ability there, not only on the offense, but on defense as well. I kind of like seeing there where you're able to deal with the high guard of David Morrell Jr. When he had his hands up there, you're able to like swipe down and shoot with the right, or do a catch and shoot there, during the fight that you had with Morrell. And you're also shown some aspects there from the defensive standpoint. But do you think that kind of like contributes to your growth as a fighter here in the professional ranks?
Yeah, definitely. And that's why I've been calling out all the best fighters in the division, every division I'm in, because you're only as I could only show you so much, against a regular opponent. I'm the type of fighter that needs a great opponent to really show how great I am. And that's all I want. I just want to give the fans great fights. I'm known for myself that once you put a fighter that's good or is a great fighter in front of me, that's where I get to show off at. And that's exactly what the last fight was. It was a great fight, and yeah, I'm just happy that the people enjoyed it. I think from what everybody says, it's been one of the best fights of the year. So
Oh
I'm
yeah.
just excited. I'm just happy to be able to do that for the fans.
Yeah, when you talk about that fight that happened February 1st, I was there live at the T-Mobile Arena, and I felt like it was one of the better fights of the year there. And, it kind of like showed that you're amongst the top fighters there at light heavyweight. And, given, what's going on at the top of the light heavyweight division, there's something you mentioned, Dimitri Bivol, and, thought that, he was going to be facing, Artur Beterbiev, and then he isn't going to fight Beterbiev. And now you got, Beterbiev on the same card November 22nd. Man, I don't even know what's going on with that particular situation, but you'll be able to handle what you can here against Anthony Yarde November 22nd, and then look forward to facing one of those guys here later on. But we also got to talk about having your father there as a head trainer. He's been able to have you develop over the years, so kind of like talk about that relationship that you had with your father. Of course, him being able to train you as a kid up to this particular point right now.
To be honest with you, it's been an honor to go through all this journey with my father, Jose Benavidez. When I was a young kid, 3 years old, and I started boxing, this was the dream I was trying to get to. This was the dream that we always talked about. And now that we manifested it, and now that we're here, still doing the same thing we said we're gonna do when we were younger. It just makes you feel really happy, and I wouldn't have wanted it to happen any other way.
Yeah, yeah. You talk about the whole thing there with the family. Of course, you have your dad there as your head trainer. Of course, you had your brother Jose Jr. there that's been in the ring as well. A number of other family members have been involved there with boxing. You have your wife there with you, and we kind of like seeing your son grow up there. While you've been climbing up these ranks and getting these world titles here in the super middleweight, and now have the title there in the light heavyweight division. I think it was at one point during the fight week for the David Morrell Jr. fight. I think you had the thing with the public workouts, and you had something there where your son was basically involved, and he was throwing punches and kind of like showing his moves there during that public workout there. So I don't know, maybe we could see your son be in the ring here a few years down the line. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I honestly, I told him, I'm like, man, don't even think about doing nothing else. You're gonna be a world champion. You're gonna be a boxer. That's it. I told my wife already. All my kids, all my boys, they have to follow the family business. So definitely boxing is what we're gonna put them in. I really want them to be champions as well. And we've already been. I've already begin my son and his mentality ready. I tell him that he's gonna be world champion every single day. So when his time comes, he's definitely gonna be a champion as well.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, we've seen your son there that's been alongside you, when you have these either the public workouts or being in the gym. And I don't know, maybe in the next 10 or 15 years, we'll see him there in the ring and, potentially compete for a championship, like we were talking about. Now, I've seen a statement there from your promoter there, Samson Lukowitz, as far as like you're playing, here in the light heavyweight division, you're going to have this one fight here for November 22nd. And then next up, try to see if you can get in line to fight for the undisputed championship there at 175 pounds. So it kind of like shows that, hey, as we were mentioning before, that you're willing to fight the best in order to show that you are the best here. And what is it to kind of like have that particular schedule, I would say, and fight these guys here at a high level?
No, it definitely motivates me. And that's why I'm saying I'm very excited, very motivated because I know these fights are they're gonna be made happen sooner or later. So if I get offered a better beef, if I get offered a Bivol, if I get offered a Surdo Ramirez or whatever big fight it is, I'm gonna take it. You know what I mean? So yeah, like I said, you guys, I'm excited for myself and I'm excited for you guys too, because you guys are gonna get some great fights pretty soon. So, I'm just looking forward to the next year.
Yeah, no doubt. That is what we were talking about as far as like you being mentioned in the pound for pound rankings, because you have those fights within those guys within the top five of the division, whether it's the super middleweight division, a light heavyweight division, or as you mentioned there, cruiserweight division. There when it comes to Zerto Ramirez. So, we definitely, see you as being one of those guys that, kind of like takes on anybody. And, when we had the whole thing that was going on over the past few years when it came to Canelo Alvarez, and, you ultimately moved on because you weren't necessarily saying that, hey, I got to wait on this guy and to see if he's going to be able to, fight me or not. You were just going to, make your own path and, kind of like show that, hey, you know what? I could show that I'm one of the best guys there in the ring and I don't need to face Canelo in order to prove that.
Exactly. Like I said, if I wasn't gonna be given a title shot with Canelo Alvarez, I was gonna make my own lane. I don't need Canelo Alvarez. I really don't care if that fight ever happens. And I'm gonna chase my greatness, and they're gonna know my name, and that's exactly what I'm showing right now.
Yeah, yeah, of course. It's about writing a chapter in the book of boxing, and your chapter definitely has to include David Benavidez in it. So you're just doing what it takes in order to show that you're one of those guys that should be mentioned there in the history of boxing, particularly in this era. Now, you have this fight coming up here November 22nd against Anthony Yarde. Of course, it's for the WBC light heavyweight title there. And what would you say is like what you could have as a big statement there in this particular bout against Anthony Yarde that would say like, hey man, you know what? Hey, I have the fans that'll really be talking about you, or more fans that may not have seen you that many times before, like see you here against Anthony Yarde and say, oh man, look what he did there against Anthony Yarde. What would you say is the best scenario there for November 22nd?
Yeah, definitely. Knockout is definitely the ideal situation. I definitely want to go in there and knock Yard out for my Riyadh season debut. But now, like I'm just going in there, focusing on my game plan, and if I execute my game plan perfectly, then the knockout's gonna come. So I'm not even thinking about knockout right now. I'm just thinking about executing my P's and Q's, throwing the right combinations, throwing the right defense, and like I said, I got a lot of time to work. I've been working for about 3 months. I still got 4 months to train, so this is definitely going to be the best David Benavidez you guys have ever seen. And physically, mentally, I got all the experience in the world. So now I'm really, 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 really ready to show the world what I'm made of.
Yeah, it's about showing the best version of David Benavidez, and over these past few fights, we kind of like seeing those levels of improvement and how you kind of like worked on multiple facets of your game here over those past few fights. And now on November 22nd here against Anthony Yarde, we'll see if the fans are gonna see even a more complete version of David Benavidez. But big thanks for you for taking the time here to speak with us at the Boxing Source. And we're definitely going to see if we could talk with you, closer to the fight or after the fight takes place.
Yes, sir. We'll definitely talk soon.